scenario. So we should start the class. So now my point is, could you make out what type of questions will come on the theoretical perspectives? Ipsita,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, can you make out what type of questions will you get on the first 4 units?
Ma'am, I will make the questions for you.
No, not much for me. I mean, can you guess the questions?
Ma'am, I can try.
Yeah, you can try that. Tell me one or two.
Okay, ma'am. From the first 4 units.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Give me a second. From the first unit, it can be the public system management scope
Nature,
and
scope,
nature,
and you
nature
can get
scope
it.
and concept
Yeah.
or the
The question
characteristics.
can be defined public system management
Yes,
and
ma'am.
what are its features and what
Its
is the scope of
characteristics and
public
scope.
system management. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. From the second unit, it can be the traditional public administration model.
Now you can get in
Um,
the first unit itself, you can get a question like this on the historical roots of public system management.
okay, ma'am.
I mean, why basically the efforts to provide good governance. The concept of good governance came in 92, but since the
Yes, ma'am.
beginning, the ruler is trying to give uh, proper administration to the citizens. But however, it was not happening. So therefore, public administration has started in United States, though administration is as old as the state. But the concept of public administration, you can trace the roots to Woodrow Wilson's paper that was published in 1887 in the International Journal Political Science Quarterly.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
that is why we say that public administration began we can give a year to the beginning of public administration, which is not possible in case of other social sciences. Because when the ideas of Woodrow Wilson was published in an international journal, then later on, it people became a critique of that approach, politico-administrative dichotomy, and this public system management you can make out. It is also a critique of politico-administrative dichotomy because it is saying that public system management has a political context, has an administrative, has a socio-economic context, and has a constitutional framework. You have to understand the different units, the way it has been arranged for you, that when we are saying that public system management is we are saying that public system management introduces managerial approach, wants an efficient and effective administration, wants a very very responsive and transparent administration. When we are saying so, we are also saying that yesterday I had told you one of the features of public system management is to draw a line between the policy and its execution. So again, we are just reinforcing Wilsonian ideas. But no, it is not like that. It is basically public system management is a product of, if you are reading administrative theory, you can make out public system management is a product of the comparative public administration approach, where Fredericks said that every administration is contextual. Because what is administration? Administration is a response to the social and economic problems of the society. It is not a response to the political problems. It is a response to the social and economic problems of the society. How social evils can be eradicated, how standard of living can be better, how can we make the administration accountable, how can we have more output with less money. I mean, economy and efficiency, we are keeping two things together. At the same time, when we are having publicness in the administration, we are saying that equity should also be one of the concerns. Economy, efficiency, at the same time, equity should be the third concern. So, if having an efficient administration at minimum cost, but we cannot sacrifice equity for that. If required, the government must provide subsidies. People must have an adequate standard of living. So equity is the third concern, which actually was pointed out by the new public administration approach, which was mooted in the first Minnebrook conference in 1968. So, since equity is the major concern, because public administration must be relevant to society. So, that means here, if the administration is effective but not addressing equity, then in that case, the administration is not at all good administration. It is not good governance. So therefore, we must introduce managerial approach. Managerial approach means delivering the services in a time bound manner. ଏମିତି ନୁହେଁ ଯେ ଲୋକ ଲାଇନରେ ଠିଆ ହେଇଥିବେ ଘଣ୍ଟା ଘଣ୍ଟା ଧରିକି ରେସନ ତମକୁ ମିଳିପାରୁନଥିବ. No, it is not like that. Government is today trying to develop, the smart card. We are yet to reach that stage, but a time will come when the PDS system will develop a smart card. If you swipe the card, you will get your anaj. So you will not waste your time. As today we are spending fraction of a second to book the gas and get the gas. That was not the situation. I think that was not the situation 30 years back. When I started managing my household, it's already 40 years I am managing my household. So, first 10 years or maybe 15 years, I had to work hard to get an LPG cylinder, filled cylinder. But that is not the situation today. So this is called, you are making public administration relevant to society. So if equity is one of the concerns, then the administration is effective. Previously it was efficient administration, but it was not effective. In the beginning also, Wilson was talking about that. But since that period was the beginning of very on administration, we could not think that we are actually doing the same thing. At the if we call the administration of Sri Ramachandra as Ramarajya, a benevolent ruler, and we call somebody as a bad ruler. So that how do we think that where the concern is equity, there the administration is effective. So basically, this third concern, if you are rich, you can get a certificate. If you are MLA, you go to the office, you get the caste certificate immediately. But if you are a common man, you are not getting the caste certificate immediately. You have to give, तो bribe दो किसको और अपना काम उठाओ. No, that is not good administration. So therefore, gradually we evolved something called public system management. Publicness will be there. People try to approach the government in a very impersonal way and also gets their services in a very impersonal way. That is what is public system management is all about. So in the second unit, as you said, you have to draw a line between traditional public administration and public system management. In fact, it is not different. But however, basically traditional public administration means if either you get a question as difference between traditional public administration and public system management, or you can get the question in this form like uh, bureaucratic administration is also considered as old administration vis-a-vis public system management. Bureaucracy is existing, but today the bureaucracy is different. Bureaucracy is not the only organization which is actually involved in policy making. Corporates are involved, those who do cost benefit analysis in a scientific way. Those people are also asked for to provide inputs for policy making. So if I am correct in assessing the mind of the question setter, it is you in administrative theory, if you are getting the question, difference between traditional administration and modern public administration. Here in public system management, the question, similar question, and the content is also similar in a way, but the question will be like this: the bureaucratic management and public system management. So this is how you will, and in your study material also there is a difference comparison has been given. And the third unit is it has too many questions, but quite easy. And that talks about the constitutional framework, the need for a constitutional framework for public system management can be a short question. Short question means a short
Ma'am, can
note.
you repeat the short question which you said again?
The constitutional framework, the need for a constitutional framework for public system management. The need for a constitutional framework for public system management. Why it is necessary? Because the public system management, if it follows the constitution, will be able to address the concerns of equity. That is the major point. We will be able to address the concerns of equity, because the constitution lays down the fundamental rights, the constitution lays down the principles of equality, also the constitution contains certain affirmative actions. So if all these are taken care of, then actually uh, it is an effective public system management. So it is effective public system management. So for every, it is not in India. Everywhere you must have a constitution. If the country doesn't have a written constitution, it is an unwritten constitution like United Kingdom, then also there is no problem, because United Kingdom is not having a constitution but has certain statutory principles which can never be violated. They have Great Britain has developed a very smooth system. See, the same political party you can, if you have observed properly, the same political party was in power, but the prime minister who could not manage, he stepped down. Then Rishi Sunak became the prime minister. Rishi Sunak could not manage, he stepped down. Then another from the same political party became the prime minister. So that is how you can just see that how the things are moving in a very, very smooth way. Okay. So this is only this is a very critical question, or you can think it's a hot question, high order thinking skill question. Otherwise, other questions are very, very textual. Like you have a short note might come on preamble, on directive principles of state policy, on fundamental rights, on democracy. These are there in the third unit. And if you read the book Introduction to Indian Constitution, that is by Durga Das Basu, and another book, Oxford Students' Companion to Indian Politics, something of that sort. Pratap Bhanu Mehta and Nirja Jayal. So if you get that book, Politics in India, it's not Oxford Students' Companion. It is published by Oxford University Press. Oxford Students' Companion to Politics in India. So if you get that book, you will get those critical theories. It will give you textual things on the Constitution, like interpretations and analysis. You will get these
Excuse
two
me, ma'am.
books.
Ma'am, your
Yes,
net is fluctuating.
net is fluctuating. I'm not audible.
No, ma'am, you are audible, but in between when you are saying something, the net is cutting off.
Okay, okay. Is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I switched off the mobile data and I'm on Wi-Fi now. It is audible now properly?
Yes, ma'am, it is audible.
Okay. So take note of these two books. T.D. Basu, Introduction to Indian Constitution, and the other book I told you, Oxford Students' Companion, Politics in India by Pratap Bhanu Mehta and Nirja Jayal. So these two books will help you to answer the questions in uh, that is the contents that is there in Unit 3. Now Unit 4 again comes to public system management, the political context. Now it's the same thing that we discussed in 1 and 2 again is no, again told in the unit 4. Basically what it is trying to say is that the way Fredericks told us in development administration, the development administration is temporal, development administration is situational, context specific. Similar thing is told here in Unit 4. What is the scenario now? What is the political environment now? The political environment is the new right philosophy. No, you forgot that those theories are also important. New right philosophy, public choice approach, property rights theory. The property right theory is very important because property right is not that all individuals will have right to property. Property right is that property right theory is that the owner is no longer the sole owner of the property. If there is a company, The owner is, suppose, Reliance. The Ambanis are no longer the sole owner of the company. If the share of the Reliance company is sold in the market, if you have 100 shares and I have 100 shares, then we also are owners of that company. So this is called property right. So the the profit of that company will also come to us. So how the profit of that company is coming to us? They are saying, because mm, having 100 shares is not important, but if you have more than 70% of the shares, then the owner becomes weak. We do not attend those elections. I have a few shares of Indian Oil, then mail will come to me, participate in e-voting. I do not bother about that. But people who have more number of shares, they will certainly bother about the voting right. So naturally, this is called property right theory in public system management, because every company is a public limited company. It becomes a public limited company. If you are opening your company, if you are opening the shares of your company to the public, and public are having those shares, that means public has a stake over your property. So you are not the sole owner of that property. That means if I own a house, and I have bought that house in 10 lakhs, but when I sell that house, I sell that house in 50 lakhs. So the 40 lakhs over and above the buying amount, purchase amount, becomes my property, my profit. That is not the case. You become a shareholder with majority of the shares. So this is the property right theory in public system management. See, Coal India. Today, the managerial approach says that even the public sectors will be managed the way private sector is managed. Now, Infosys, we buy the shares of Infosys. Similarly, also we buy the shares of public sector units like Coal India, Indian Oil, Electricity Authority of Odisha or India, whatever such type of company, BPCL. So we also buy those shares, whichever, even we have shares of SBI. So when we have these shares, we buy the shares of SBI. SBI also invest our money in the stock market. Like I have kept with SBI something around 50 lakhs as FD, and if SBI is giving me 7.5% interest. But however, if the SBI is investing that money in a very judicious way in the stock market, then the SBI might get 10% profit, might get 20% profit, but the rest of the money will remain with SBI. Had I invested the money, I would have got that 20% profit. But କେତେବେଳେ 20% profit ହେଲେ କେତେବେଳେ 20% loss ବି ହେଇପାରେ. So that loss also I have to bear, which the company, since it is having many shares, that might not affect the company. But certainly if I lose 2 crores, it will affect my savings and everything. So that you have to understand. So the unit 4 talks about the political environment in which public system management operates. So what is this political environment? The new rights philosophy, which talks about uh, maximum governance, minimum government. That means the government will not interfere much. The government will only become an umpire or a crisis manager. So that is called rolling back of the state. You have to understand this phrase. And so this is called new managerialism. New managerialism means introducing the practices in private sector to public sector. What is important is result, not process. What is important is performance appraisal, not how sincere you are. So if you may stay in the office for 9 hours, but if your work is not that effective, then there is a rating system. You will be rated low. ସେଇ 9 ଘଣ୍ଟା କାମ କରିକିରି ଆଉ ଜଣେ ଲୋକ will be rated A. And your salary hike, your annual hike haba, annual hike will be as per the rating. But that is not in case of bureaucracy. So though we have this new rights philosophy in the Western nations, they have exposed their economy, majority portion of the economy, to this new rights philosophy. But in our country, we are trying to do that, but to some extent. Like, suppose we have Apical. The MD of Apical is a management consultant, uh, there for the government, working for the government with a high salary and perks and benefits only for 3 years or 5 years, not more than that. So this is, and government is that way, government is getting the benefits of the knowledge of that management consultant. So this is called new managerialism. But even if you are introducing new managerialism, citizens' rights should not be compromised. So therefore, every private company has a citizen charter, but every government company has also adopted the citizen charter practice. But the citizen charter contains the services given by the institution and the services, uh, the time delivery of services, the time taken for delivery of services. So those are important from this standpoint. So while reading a unit, you must keep in mind the key concept, because you might get short notes on the brief notes on the key concepts. Like, see, in the political environment, uh, we have something called, structural adjustment and stabilization policy. I was talking about the structural adjustment in the beginning of yesterday's class. In this political environment, Unit 4, they have talked about the structural adjustment and stabilization policy. Now, this is the concept. So basically, this is very important from the viewpoint of short nose. Something called user charges. User charges means you are supposed to, new managerialism means you are supposed to mobilize resources for your organization. So how the health sector will mobilize resources for your for the institution? So that is done. Government introduced 1 rupee for every prescription, and some very subsidized prices for X-ray, subsidized prices for pathology, subsidized prices for ultrasound. And for what purpose this money is used? The money is used in hospitals, in primary health centers, in community upgraded primary health centers, in subdivisional hospitals, for betterment of the hospital. That means The hospital, no, the money is mm, with the in consultation with the public, because it is public fund. In consultation with the public, the money is spent for cleaning the hospital, maybe having an inverter for the hospital, maybe having where the patients are waiting, maybe having an AC unit for the waiting hall. So user fees are used for uh, providing better services, making the stay in the institution or unit very comfortable. So these are paid by the citizens for consumption of goods and services, and do not include fees for capital costs. Capital costs ମାନେ pathology machine କିଣା ହେଇଛି ବା ଅଲ୍ଟ୍ରାସାଉଣ୍ଡର ମେସିନ୍ କିଣା ହେଇଛି, ତା ପାଇଁ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ପଇସା ଦେବାକୁ ପଡୁନି। ଜଷ୍ଟ ଦ ରନିଂ କଷ୍ଟ ମାନେ ଯେତିକି ଗୋଟେ ପେପର କିଣା ହେଲା କି ମେସିନଟା ରିପେୟାର ହେଲା, ସେଇ କଷ୍ଟଟାକୁ ବିୟର କରିବା ପାଇଁ ୟୁଜର ଚାର୍ଜେସ୍ ତମେ ଚାର୍ଜ କରୁଛ, ମିନିମାଲ ଚାର୍ଜେସ୍ ଫ୍ରମ୍ ଦ ପେସେଣ୍ଟ। So you must keep in mind these key concepts, because these key concepts might come as brief notes for you in the examination. Okay. So later, so I hope you have, you can now easily answer the questions of 4 units. I think I have been able to make you understand the importance of these things. And now, what is the socio-economic context and what are the important things in the social? Now, what is if you, because you see, I told you it is Fredericks, it is the development administration theorist who have said that administration is contextual. That means basically Frederick says that the formula that is used by the Americans, if they are replicated in India or China, it will not prove right. It will not work perfectly. So therefore, what is required is that same formula to be modulated to some extent as required. Maybe 70%, maybe 30%, maybe 40%, and to be applied to the developing world. Because administration is contextual, administration is situational. See, this is the difference between traditional public administration and modern public administration. Traditional public administration said that structure and functions. Legislature, if you consider it as a structure, then it has similar function everywhere in any country. Why shouldn't it function properly? But how will we function it properly? Caste system is not there in America. But here we are, providing reservation. Should we have reservation or not? Extending reservation in every 10 years. These are all part of public system management in India. Similar things may be there in other countries also. But if a particular country is having one religion, the multiculturalism that we are having, why India? Is it that the founding fathers of the constitution were so fools that they allowed personal religion for minorities? No. At that point of time, they thought that this is the way we can hold together. Since partition happened, had partition not happened, things would have been different. Since partition happened, the people who decided to stay with India, they must feel safe. Therefore, at that point of time, they could not think of uniform civil code. So now the question is, since we are already 75 years old, shouldn't we think of uniform civil code? Shouldn't we think of one divorce law, one marriage law? Shouldn't we allow similar human rights to all women, irrespective of religion? So that is the question, that is the debate that is going on right now. Still, we are not having uniform civil code. Though Goa is the only country, only state which is having uniform civil code, and recently Uttarakhand has also introduced, because they have less diversity. But where there is more diversity, they see Uttar Pradesh, even if they are desiring, they are not able to do it. Where you have more diversity, there you have to think twice when you are having maintaining uniform. What is required is that peace should be maintained. Okay. So you have to understand the social context of administration. And in the social context, you have religion, caste, language. If you have a what is the family system? The family is the primary social unit. What is the family system? Because according to the family system, you have you allow certain functions, certain social obligations, you allow the different type of property right, and depending on the cultural context, you allow rights to women. So in our country, 93% of women are in organized sector. Women workers are in unorganized sector. That might not be the case in United States or United Kingdom. So why it is happening? It is happening because our women, we have a strong family network. So there and we think that women is the caregiver. So therefore, many a times when there is a question of care, the women, in the aspirations, the career prospects of women are sacrificed. So therefore, many times you find that the women is actually engaged in a temporary job, not in a permanent job. And also job stereotyping is there. More number of women are there in education sector, not in army or not in engineering sector, but in education sector. So you hardly find any women who is no, very few. A few women are working in the field like civil engineer, but uh, being in the field. Rather, you find many of the women engineers are in IT companies. So these are the social context in which our public system management operates. We have a rural-urban interface also. So accordingly, we have to, while uh, managing the system, we have to think about this. So what is the economic context of our society? Our society, uh, basically when we are accepting the social context, that means we have we have, you know, mm, in India, around 9% of the total population are not developed. They are the tribals, and they have uh, diversity, too much diversity, too many languages, too many scripts. They cannot understand the mainstream language, and you are thinking of multilingual education. That is not the problem with United States. Then you have to address that problem and see if the child is having access to education, the child will be able to get uh, no, if the child progresses, continues to have education, then the child will have employability. But that in the beginning stage, At the elementary stage, it is a challenge because the child doesn't understand the mainstream language in which we impart education in India. I hope I am audible. Am I
Yes,
audible?
ma'am.
Okay. So we have to think about those economic issues like poverty, unemployment, our the new economic policy, and our you know we cannot just promote what do you say we cannot just promote macroeconomics. We have to think about the local conditions. Even today there are areas where recently a news came that teachers are crossing the river to go to their workplace, and suddenly it did no one colleague uh, they he died on the way because of the end of the teachers were complaining that we could not get help. So how can you imagine that a country which is trying to impress all other nations in the world is having one area where the teachers are going to the school with the help of a boat? It is because there is no bridge over the river. So that influences the development of the area. So when you are trying to have an effective public system management, we have to understand, we have to keep in mind all these economic, social, and political issues. Otherwise, we cannot have an effective public system management. And most important is that Transparency International, the Global Corruption Report, all these are saying that corruption is too much in India. It is because since the bureaucracy is not functioning properly, people think there is delay in providing services. So people think if we just provide some money, 10 ଟଙ୍କା 50 ଟଙ୍କା 40 ଟଙ୍କା ଦେଇଦେଲେ କାମଟା ଟିକେ ଜଲ୍ଦି ହେଇଯିବ. Because if you are coming again and again, you are spending. So that is how a person coming from Koraput all the way to get his work done at Bhubaneswar pays more than the person who is in Bhubaneswar. Because the person who is coming from Koraput quickly calculates how much money do I spend if I come from Koraput again and again. So if I pay less than that, if I pay 1000 for getting my work done, nothing bad, because I am spending a lot from coming from Koraput to Bhubaneswar. Keep aside the hard work I am doing, the stress I am taking. Just think about the money I spent. It is better to give 500, 600 bucks to the clerk to get the work done. So that is how the corruption is rampant in case of all these third world countries. So this we have these things we have to keep in mind, and these are the things that is there in your fifth and sixth unit. So you just see, you have to be very careful in preparing the fifth and sixth unit. You must jot down the points in bullet points and prepare accordingly, because see, third unit is very it's very definite. Second unit is also very definite, but it is a very descriptive thing in fourth and fifth unit. That is a political context and socio-economic context. So you have to be very careful and just prepare certain questions and think over it. Basically, the background of this political, social context. See, Constitution provides the framework for managing things. But however, management of things will differ from country to country, from place to place. From it will be different in Odisha, it will be different in Uttar Pradesh, it will be different in Bihar. You have to understand that. Okay, so this you have to keep in mind, and also while addressing any question on social and economic context, the political context, try to uh, you know uh, try to write about that administrative concept given by Fredericks. The administration has an that is called the ecological approach. Right now, I remember that is called the ecological approach. So, administration is having an ecology. Every each and every administration operates within a definite ecology, that is the social, economic, and political context. So, with this perspective, the units have been arranged. So, that you have to keep in mind. So, let us come to the sixth unit. These are all not very difficult. So, you will not have problem in understanding this. And the sixth unit is regarding e-governance. How information and communication technology has influenced public policy, has influenced public service delivery, that you have to understand. See, how we managed during COVID. COVID taught us how can we have e-judiciary, which you can never think of. How can we have e-panchayat, which you can never think of. Basically, you can think of e-panchayat, but you can never think of e-judiciary. But right now it is happening. Cases are recorded. You can no need to bring the witness again and again to the court. The witness can give its statements online, and these are recorded. So this is called e-judiciary. And for that also, the government has created a judicial archive. It will help the researchers to do research. So now let us, when we are discussing about e-governance, digital governance, later on, we will do that. But so I will just keep the sixth unit just pending. Later on, I will do it. Now we will come to why are we focusing more on electronic governance or digital governance? So that if we understand the concept of governance, we will be able to understand this. So the seventh unit is very important in the sense that it talks about the concept of governance. So what is this concept of governance? Now, in your reading material, it has been given that the concept of governance was used in France in 14th century. Now, the seat of government, where the government was acting, government in action, that was called as governance in French language at that point of time. But today, governance means government in action. Write down there is a philosopher called Michael Foucault. Michael Foucault, Foucault means Foucault, like that. So it's called Foucault actually. So Michael Foucault said that governance has two aspects. If the government is having the ability to resolve issues, then you can say, you can term this as governability. Like we have many progressive laws. But if we are not able to implement those laws, then what is the reason? The bureaucracy is not having the mentality to implement it. So Foucault talked about another concept that is called governmentality. One is governability, other is governmentality. That means the government, those who are in on the seat, the government is not having the mentality to have an effective public system management. So Michael Foucault talked about this two words, governability and governmentality. So if we are told to define governance, how will we define? So governance is the process of decision making and the process by which decisions are implemented or not implemented. So if it is implemented, you say that government has a mentality to implement. If it is not implemented, you say that government has no intention to implement it. So therefore, the process of government or government in action, you can call it as governance. Adding one adjective to governance, malgovernance, misgovernance, bad governance, good governance. These concepts were mooted by the international institutions. When the uh, uh, gradually, when we talked about when there was expansion of democracy and people participated in policy making, in policy implementation, gave their feedbacks, and for non-implementation of policies, government was the party in power was thrown out of rule. So in such cases, gradually the government tried to develop governance uh, where you try to get the feedback from the people, try to engage with the people before making a policy, and try to provide quality services to the people. So this is how you know it is said that uh, gov- in 1989, when the sub-Saharan region, sub-Saharan African countries could not repay their loan taken from either IMF or World Bank, these uh, Financial institutions, they these financial institutions, they make an analysis, they made a research, and they found that these are the countries who cannot make the payment. So they made research, why couldn't they make the payment? Though they had introduced structural adjustment program in 1981, but in 1989 or 88, when they made an assessment of sub-Saharan African region, they found that these countries are not capable of repaying the loan. So in 1992, you all can get this document from the internet. In 1992, World Bank came out with the another document that is called Good Governance. Now, World Bank uh, gave us certain features of good governance. You all know it, like responsive government, accountable government, transparent government, participatory governance, and all these things are just part of the simple government. I mean, people, the governance process should be as simple as possible so that people can interact. There will be an interface between government and citizens in a very smooth way. People may not be able to see the government, but they can interact with the government, and immediately the government will respond to them. If you give a feedback, you should have such an electronic system that if you ask for something, somebody should be there at the other end to provide you reply. So such a software is developed, where such a website is developed, where there is an opportunity to uh, ask questions, even if you are not going to the institution, you are sitting at your at your home and asking the question and getting response. So this is called good governance, and it became possible only with the help of information technology. So that is how are we, if we use the scanner, we are able to make the payment. When we scan the QR code, the the vendor is able to know the account holder's name, and the vendor is able to know that yes, this is a authentic account holder. He doesn't bother who am I. If I scan the QR code and a particular name is coming, then the vendor knows that yes, this is the name which is having the account, and the person will make the payment. And immediately the vendor also knows by that the indication comes that the vendor has received the money. So here the the it's a cashless economy. So when you are just conscious about your mobile, nothing else, because you are not having money in your purse. So this is what in a very extended way, good governance is all about. Now, this is an conceptualization by the international financial institutions, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, World Bank, UNDP. United Nations Development Program, United Nations Economic and Social Council Organization, UNESCO, uh, all this. But however, theorists they say the way these institutions interpret governance, conceptualize governance, is basically an Western agenda to develop capitalism or the new rights philosophy in third world countries, or to introduce the new rights philosophy in third world countries. So, how? Because you are now allowing the private sector, allowing the private sector to do the work of the public sector. Even public service delivery is managed by the private sector. So this is called. So again, then a new concept is coming before you: corporate governance. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am, you're
ma'am.
audible.
Again, the good governance is talking in terms of minimal state. So here, when you are talking about governance as minimal state, you're actually redefining the extent and form of state intervention, the extent and form of people's participation, and the extent in the form of uh, entry of market to deliver public services. So at one point of time, telecommunication system was the monopoly of the state. Today, telecommunication system has many players. So therefore, you are talking the political context of public system management is like this. You are having a competitive environment. You are also talking about governance as corporate governance. Today, correct, what is that? CSR, collective social responsibility. No, it's corporate social responsibility. So, why we are talking about corporate social responsibility? Because if there is a ferrochrome plant in Jajpur, then the ferrochrome plant must look after the development of the area, because the plant is using the infrastructure of that area. So the plant administration must take care of the uh, the development of that area, transport and communication of that area. Because if it is not, because that company itself is using the infrastructure. So therefore, we have a Company Act which was enacted in 1956. Later on, it was amended in 2013, and now corporate social responsibility is an important component of corporate governance. It is not that CSR is just the responsibility of the private sector. CSR is also the responsibility of the public sector. Whatever profits you have, the public sector, take for example Coal India is compelled to spend 5% of its profit for public interest, for fulfilling public interest. Similarly, the Private sector, as per the Company Act, must spend 2% of its CSR, 2% of its profit for fulfilling or discharging its responsibilities towards the society. So this is called corporate governance. Now, since the state is the umpire, state is the regulating body, state looks after what exactly is the way how the CSR fund is spent in each and every company. So this is actually called new public management concept, where you are mobilizing resources for the social sector development. What is the social sector? Social sector is health, education, and food security. Okay. So this new concept of governance is nothing but new public management, where you are introducing the administrative practices prevalent in the private sector in the public sector. And you all know how the NPM approach was based on uh, the books Reinventing Government, Gabler's book. Okay. Osborne and Gabler, who wrote the book in 1992, that is called Reinventing Government. This is a very important book which explains the new public management concept. Okay. So, if new public management practices are followed, then governance becomes good governance. For a period of time, for a decade, we consider this as a Western agenda. But later on, we finally decided to accept it, and we are also trying to follow the features of good governance or the characteristics of good governance given by World Bank. So this good governance is also a concept in administrative theory because it is called good governance approach. This is also an important thing in public system management. So you must all these are every paper must be remembered the way it is given. It is not like that. You can utilize your knowledge from public system management while answering your questions in administrative theory or answering the questions in or you can use the knowledge of administrative thinkers or administrative thought while answering the questions on public system management. Okay. So I hope you understand all these things. So should we give more elaboration of the new public management approach? Do you want me to elaborate it, the new public management approach?
Yes, ma'am.
Or is it enough?
Yes, ma'am. If you elaborate it, it will be much nicer to understand. And the things you have taught is also enough. So it is up to you. If you want, you can expand it. Otherwise, we can proceed to the next.
Okay. So I'm just telling you in the Indian context, you will be able to understand it. When public administration began. I mean, when Woodrow Wilson defined public administration, Woodrow Wilson said that public administration is systematic execution of public law, not making of public law, only systematic execution of public law. So it means administration from top to bottom. So it is a top down approach. Systematic execution of public law, you are not talking to the people, you are making your own laws and trying to execute it. So this you can understand as the beginning of public administration. What is now public administration is contextual, it is ecological in nature. Every nation has a unique system, but even if every nation has a unique system, but you can have some universal features, like every nation, every government is having three organs: legislative, executive, and judiciary. So like this such type of universal system, every government is having a grievance redressal system. Every government is spending money for health and education, the social sector development, like certain universal features you can get. But however, every nation has a unique system, like the caste system, affirmative actions uh, with relation to the caste system is unique to the Indian administration. So you cannot, if you want, affirmative actions may be there in different forms in other countries. So what you find is that, just remember, Weber also said that bureaucratic system is, uh, it is specific to the industrial society. Industrial society cannot operate without the bureaucracy. So therefore, colonies, when they the foreign rulers, when they came to the colonies, they colonized the underdeveloped people. Their bureaucracy, they introduced bureaucracy in 19th and 20th century, because if there is a bureaucracy where their officials are working, it will be easy for them to administer the colonies. Now, to administer the colonies, they also wanted that uh, to administer the colonies, they also wanted that the colony, if to create a comfortable environment to administer. So that is how, when the Britishers were in our country, they developed railways, they developed Western education, they developed post and telegraph. Because these were they also developed some infrastructure, because these were necessary for operating their business in our country. And what were the features of such a bureaucracy? This is purely a Weberian bureaucracy: rule of law, selection based on merit, hierarchy, impersonality, universality, and no other organization was having such powers, such features. So its exclusiveness is important. But however, gradually what we find is that these bureaucracies in the newly developed countries behaved differently. In the Peter Drucker, the administrative theories, they said bureaucracy is flat and flabby. It expands horizontally as well as vertically. Budget maximization is its basic feature. Niskanen, the public choice theorist, said so. Uh, Public policies are nothing but private interests of decision makers peddled into public. ଯିଏ ଡିସିସନ ମେକିଂ ରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଦେ ଆର୍ ଏ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି, ଯେମିତି ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ ଆଇଏସ୍ ଇଜ୍ ଏ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି। ତାଙ୍କର ଯଦି କୋଉଥିରେ ବେନିଫିଟ୍ ଅଛି, ହେଲ୍ଥ ସେକ୍ରେଟାରୀ ଜଷ୍ଟ ବ୍ରିଫ୍ କରିଦେବେ ଏଜୁକେସନ ସେକ୍ରେଟାରୀକୁ, ଏଜୁକେସନ ସେକ୍ରେଟାରୀ ଏକର୍ଡିଂଲି ହେଲ୍ଥ ସେକ୍ରେଟାରୀଙ୍କୁ ବେନିଫିଟ୍ ହେଲା ଭଳିଆ ଗୋଟେ ପଲିସି ତିଆରି କରିଦେବେ। ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ତା ଦେହରେ ଲୋକ ବି ବେନିଫିଟେଡ୍ ହେବେ, but actually the policy was made for to satisfy the individual interest. So this is called public policies are nothing but private interests of decision makers peddled into public. So publicness of public is always questioned in third world countries. This happened in 1970s. Why the countries could not make payment? So this happened in 1970s, 1980s, but in 1990s, in 1992 is the year when actually World Bank uh, came out with the document of good governance, and David Osborne and Ted Gebler also wrote the book Reinventing Government. And in 1993, the Vice President of USA also submitted a national performance review. By this time, remember, already the theorist in public administration had mooted the new public management concept. They were saying that no, these public sector units are not functioning properly. How can we make administration more effective? So they said, let us introduce the practices of private sector uh, to the public sector. So the National Performance Review of the United States, it suggested for restructuring of the operation of the government. See, in 1887, Woodrow Wilson was talking about non-performance of the US government. In 1993, Al Gore's report was also talking about non-performance of the administration. So therefore, new new concepts in administration were introduced, and these new concepts were just like it defines citizens as customers, I have already told you about, and offers them choices. Government must direct its energy towards earning money, resource mobilization, rather than only spending the taxpayers' money. And it must catalyze all sectors, public, private, and voluntary, into action to solve, to resolve the community, the problems of the community, and provide public services. To decentralize authority, yesterday I had told you about it, and to encourage participative management. To introduce competition among the service providers. Performance is to be measured, not sincerity. You may be in the office from 10 to 5, but not doing any work. Then you will be rated, you will be given a very low rate. But so every employee must have target. Performance to be measured in terms of outputs. माने ये जो NPM approach टा ଏତେ ବେଶୀ deep seated ହେଇଗଲାଣି ଯେ suppose you have gone to the bank, one of your FDs, fixed deposits are maturing. Today, every employee is having certain target. So it has become such that, you know, there you are at uh, one desk with one person. She or he will immediately inform the other person who is in charge of investing your money in the stock market. That is called mutual fund. They will be after you till you give your consent to invest your money in the stock market, in the mutual fund. Why the bank, in the banking, the employees in the bank is doing all these things? Do you think they are helping us? No, they have a target. Though it is a public sector, government has fixed a target. Otherwise, the employee will be rated, will be given a low rate. So performance is to be measured in terms of outputs, not inputs. କେତେ ଘଣ୍ଟା ଅଫିସରେ ରହିଲ, ଠିକ ସମୟରେ ଆସୁଛ, ଠିକ ସମୟରେ ଯାଉଛ, ଏଇଟା ହେଲା ଇନପୁଟ। ଆଉଟପୁଟ ହଉଛି ତମେ କେତେ ବିଜନେସ ଦେଲ ଅଫିସକୁ। That is important. So your work will be motivated by goals, not rules and regulations. So this is the change that was introduced in 1990s. Citizen was considered as a rational consumer and administration was considered as management. So there was a paradigm shift from public administration to new public management, what you consider as public system management. Okay, I hope you understand. So you understand, you remember what are the basic features of this NPM approach? Managerialism, that bureaucrat is nothing but a manager only, not a babu. He's a manager only. New public management, market-based public administration, that means even the administration, government administration, is competing with the private players. So there is a competition because consumer citizens as consumers must be given choices. Citizens must have plurality of choices because they are the taxpayers. So they must get quality services. So to get quality services, government should not be the only player, only service provider. If other service providers are there, then there will be competition. So you can, so sometimes NPM is called as post bureaucratic paradigm. Why am I making you acquainted with these words? Because in the questions these words might be used. Last point is another feature of NPM is that it talks about entrepreneurial government. Government भी business करेगा. Now you just see, government is also making apartments. Government is also selling products. ମାନେ ସରକାର ବି ଗୋଟେ ବିଜନେସମ୍ୟାନ, ସିଏ ବି କିଛି ତା ଦେହରୁ ଲାଭାଂଶ ପାଇବେ ଆଉ ସେ ଲାଭାଂଶଟା ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ଉପକାରରେ ଲଗେଇବେ, ଗୋଟେ କିଛି ଲାଭାଂଶ ପାଇବେ। ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ନ୍ୟୁ ପବ୍ଲିକ ମ୍ୟାନେଜମେଣ୍ଟ ଯୋଉ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ୟୁଜ କରୁଛି ତାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରିନିଓରିଆଲ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ। Government must deliver more and so what you find is that when you have when you are adopting market mechanisms, that means you are introducing compulsory competitive tendering contract. You believe in more contracting and outsourcing. The loss making units, you should not provide money to revive them. If it is a loss making unit, disinvest it, use that money for other purposes. So what you find is it's more customer oriented, customer oriented public service and community driven governance. We are empowering people to interact with the government. So I had told you yesterday that more important to know what is smart governance. Simple, moral, accountable, responsive and transparent governance. कौन काम ହେଲା, how the government is operating, or everything, and what is the input ବିଷୟରେ ତୁମେ କୁହ ନ କୁହ, output ବିଷୟରେ ତ ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ କହିବ. And that should be there in your website. So what is more important? There is a shift from uh, policy to management. So government says that in NPM, prevention is better than solution. So you enhance the skill, you allow the market to operate. If whoever is a very capable person, is a dynamic person, can have multiple way of earning their livelihood. ଅଫିସକୁ ଗଲେ ଅଫିସରେ ଥିବା ଭିତରେ ବି ନିଜେ ବି କାହା କାହା ପାଇଁ ଷ୍ଟକ୍ ମାର୍କେଟରେ ପଇସା ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟ କରିକି କିଛି କିଛି କମିଶନ ବି ପାଇଲେ. ଇ କମର୍ସରେ କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ବିକିକିରି କିଛି କିଛି ପଇସା ବି ପାଇଲେ. ଓକେ, ସୋ ଦିସ୍ ଇଜ ହାଉ we are relating administration to development. Now, how India was, when India, remember, when India did not accept the structural adjustment program, 1981 to 1991, did not accept the structural adjustment program. At that point of time, we did not have, we were having a very acute balance of payment situation. ଆମ ପାଖରେ ହାର୍ଡ କରେନ୍ସି ବା ଇଣ୍ଟରନ୍ୟାସନାଲ କରେନ୍ସି କିଛି ନାହିଁ, ଆମେ ଜିନିଷ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟ କରିବା ବି କଷ୍ଟ ହେଇପଡ଼ିଲା. ତ ସେଇ ସମୟରେ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କିଛିଟା ପବ୍ଲିକ ସେକ୍ଟରରେ ରିଫର୍ମ ଇଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଡ୍ୟୁସ କଲା, ଲାଇକ୍ ଇନ୍ 1988 ଗୋଲ୍ଡେନ୍ ହ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡସେକ୍ ପଲିସି ୱାଜ ଇଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଡ୍ୟୁସ୍ଡ. ଭଲରେ ଭଲରେ ଠକ ମାନଙ୍କୁ, ଅଳସୁଆ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଅଫିସରୁ ବିଦା କରାଗଲା. ଭାଇ ଗୋଟେ ଥର ବହୁତ ପଇସା ନେଇଯାଅ, ତମେ ଯାଅ. Government also introduced this concept of competition. Navaratna, Maharatna, Mini Ratna, depending on your turnover, you can elevate from a Mini Ratna to a Maharatna. Then you can elevate yourself to Navaratna. So what is this benefit of elevation? Then you get autonomy to take decisions. Even if you are a public sector, you get autonomy to take decisions. You need not, for taking decisions, you need not, no, you need not ask the boss again and again. So you should yourself own the responsibility of any mistake or any good deed. So this is how we need to understand the new public management concept. I hope you understand now. Now we will, since we have already discussed about it, we will now go to the eighth chapter, the eighth unit, which was talking about. The eighth unit is all about governance, role of bureaucracy, uh, and political executive. That means what should be the role of bureaucrat and the political executive. This is basically, we are talking about the Indian context. See, when there was monarchy, there was no problem. In the sense that the ruler was well versed. ଯେ ଗୋଟେ ଭଲ ରାଜା, ସେ ନିଜେ ଗୋଟେ ଭଲ ଯୋଦ୍ଧା, ସେ ନିଜେ ତାର ବହୁତ ଜ୍ଞାନ ଅଛି, ସେ ବହୁତ କଥା କରିପାରୁଥିଲା. Today the scenario is different. The education minister might not be having much knowledge on education. The industry minister might not be having much knowledge on development of technology. The person in charge of IT department or IT ministry might, or science and technology ministry might not be having scientific knowledge, because the political executive is the CEO, and now the political executive is not having expertise. So in that case, the bureaucrat is having expertise. So if there is a good relationship between the political executive and the bureaucracy, you will actually uh, you know the duo can provide good administration or good governance. But if the bureaucrat doesn't pull on well with the political executive, then the bureaucrat is the eyes and ears of the chief executive. Then the bureaucrat will not open its eyes and ears. କିଛି ଦେଖିବ ନାହିଁ, କିଛି ଶୁଣିବ ନାହିଁ. So in right time, the bureaucrat will not be able to provide information or make aware his or her boss. So this is the major problem in a democracy where we have political leaders and we have the bureaucracy at the helm of the affairs. Uh, so that we have to understand what is the scenario when the country became independent and what is the scenario right now. What is the relationship between the bureaucracy and the political executive. Okay. So what is there in unit, which unit is this? What is there in unit 8? We will discuss. Role of bureaucracy and political executive in government. It is Weber who actually talked about bureaucracy in a much different way. However, he never defined bureaucracy. Should we call the top level class 1 officers as bureaucrats? Or can we call the class 4th employee as part of bureaucracy? So there is a debate going on, who are the bureaucrats? Whether the policy makers are the bureaucrats or the policy implementers are the bureaucrats. So from top to bottom, If should we call all as bureaucracy, or should we call the top one as bureaucracy? Uh, that you have to keep in mind while discussing about the relationship between bureaucracy and political executive. Now, there is a difference between the relationship between bureaucrat and political executive in a presidential system and bureaucrat and political executive in a prime ministerial system. So far as the parliamentary system is concerned, what you find? You find that the bureaucrat is apolitical, but the political executive is political. Political executive has no experience, no expertise. ଯେମିତିକି ଅବିକା ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ଆମର ଯେଉଁ ବିଜେପି ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଶାସନ କଲେ, this the chief minister himself was never a minister in any ministry because the party was not in power. When the party was in power, other heavyweights were there who became ministers like Vishwabhushan Harichandan and all those people. So that you have to uh, understand. But in case of a presidential system, what happens? President is at liberty to employ the members of cabinet, to appoint the experts as secretaries or as executives, chief executive officers, which is not in case of parliamentary democracy. So an expert is the expert when the expert becomes executive, it is the expert is not might be having some ideological inclination, but not totally it is true. So therefore, what you find is that a defense secretary in United States is having the knowledge of defense. Uh, a finance secretary uh, in a presidential system, a finance secretary of uh, United States government, that finance secretary, uh, the finance secretary is an expert in the field, and as the CEO can give proper information and can guide the other employees in a proper way. So this is the if it is a presidential system, you have other opportunities. If you are in a parliamentary system, you have other opportunities. So this is how you see. You have to understand the relationship between bureaucracy and political executive. So there are different models of the relationship between bureaucracy and political executive. Uh, you can discuss about USA, you can discuss about UK. And there are different models which you can discuss. So I think we should little bit discuss about these models, and or should we discuss these models tomorrow? Are you overburdened or more inputs have been given to you? You are not able to digest them now. So it is the whole unit is talking about the relationship between bureaucracy and political executive. It is very important that you will certainly get a long question of question marks of 10 in the examination, or 20 or 5 or whatever it 8 or whatever it is. Positively, you will get a question on bureaucracy, the relationship between bureaucracy and political executive. So from today itself, you make a preparation uh, uh, on this topic. Okay. So I think I must keep here. I have some work. So I will wind up the class here. It is already 8:20. It is going to be 8:20. Do you have any doubts? I can stay for 5 more minutes.
No, ma'am. There is no doubts.
So you must prepare some questions. If you are not able to uh, prepare answers for that questions, so ask me tomorrow. Tomorrow again we will have and discuss about it. And also, since we have already discussed about good governance, we will all and digital governance is a part of good governance. Tomorrow we will discuss about that. Okay.
Okay.
So we will wind up the class here. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.